For over 20 years, I've dedicated my life to bringing you the very best selling, marketing, and business building strategies to keep your business thriving. Get ready to experience the success you've been searching for. Welcome to the Tom Ferry Show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Tom Ferry Show, episode 115. Do you have a listing right now that's just not selling? Or worse, are you going into appointments and the sellers are totally dominating the conversation because of what's happening in the national media? Today's show, I want to address both issues with you and give you some language and strategies so not only are you selling your properties faster, but you're serving the clients and getting them what they want. So today we're talking about why isn't that listing selling? And the simple answer is, and I love this line, if it's not compelling, it's not selling. Think about that. If the property isn't compelling, then it's not selling. I want to talk to you first in the mindset of going back and meeting with your seller that's been on the market, that's had showings and no offers, or worse, it's been a while since they've even had a showing. You're frustrated, they're frustrated. Their answer is always the same: spend more money on advertising. And your answer is usually the same: lower the price, make it more compelling. How do we win in this situation? Here's what I wrote down for you. The Relist Strategy, which, by the way, pay attention to, as I said, for your listing presentation strategy, goes like this. I want to meet face-to-face, and I've got to have all the decision makers there. And of course, I want to start with number two. I want to understand their point of view. I think it's so important, especially if you're in the high end or whatever the high end is in your marketplace, or you're at a $200,000 property and you're at somewhere in Illinois. The reality is consumers are reading the Wall Street Journal, Fortune Magazine, CNN Financial, Bloomberg, and everything is screaming there's no inventory. We've got 78 million people that want to buy a house and there's no homes for sale. Now, the average consumer is not going to go, there's no inventory. Millions of people want to buy a house. I know what we should do, lower the price. No, you know what they're thinking? Raise the price. So herein lies the challenge. If you don't start with understanding your client's point of view, you're instantly out of rapport with their perspective. Their perspective is going to make their decision, and they're going to get what they want, overpriced, not knowing what you and I both understand. So how do we help them, right? We say number three, you want to break down, here's what's happening in Bloomberg. Here's what, like, you should have Bloomberg, Wall Street Journal, CNN Financial. You should have, look what everybody's saying. The market's hot. There's no inventory, right? And you're saying this is selling. They're like, yeah. And now they're saying, but why isn't my home selling? What's going on? We've been on the market for 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, 2 years. What's going on? And then you break down. These are the national statistics. Do you know what the national home, or like the national average, what those properties sell for, and you give them that number? We got to look at the state that we're in. In the state of Florida, here's what's happening. But then you got to break it down to the city. The city that we live in, here's what's happening. And even better if you can go, now let's talk about our micro bubble market, the community we live in, and those price points. And what happens is, you help that seller go from the Wall Street Journal says, or find me that Chinese buyer, right? Like for my high-end club, find me that Russian billionaire who's going to buy my home. You get them out of this mindset and understanding that they can sit here and look globally or nationally, but we need to look at exactly what's going on right here in our local marketplace. But like everything else in rapport, you got to meet them where they are and then take them on the journey of education to understand what they should do next. So we break down national, state, city, community, price point, and what's the general rule of thumb? And every market's slightly different, so the general rule of thumb is if we have under 6 months of inventory, you're in a seller's market. But if you're 7+, you're in a buyer's market. I had one of my clients in here recently, I said, in that price range, what is the, like how much inventory is available? He said, about 2.5 years. 2.5 years. If it's not compelling, then it's not selling. You're going to use that line. I know you are. You should. It's a great line. Mr. and Mrs. Seller on a new listing or on a relist appointment to get them sold in spring and summer. If it's not compelling, it's just not selling, which leads us to the educational piece. Now that they understand this, we want to say, let's talk about what's happening in the market. What makes a listing compelling in your market? Think about it. What makes a listing compelling in your market? I talked to a client recently in Santa Monica working in the high-rise marketplace. Big shout out to David Solomon. We were talking about the fact that there was 4 listings in this one building, 1 priced really well, 3 overpriced. Which one do you think got all the activity and offers? We all know the answer, but we can't just say price only, because if you say price only, all they're hearing is, you're an agent, you just want me to reduce the price to sell it fast, wah, wah, wah. You know more than that. Be the educator. Is it opportunity property? I know in my own community, when a home comes on the market, if it was built in the 50s or 60s and it still kind of looks like that, it's an opportunity property where a builder's gonna walk in, scrape it, take the lot, and build something magnificent. And those properties, priced even in the range of 3 to 5% above fair market value, still end up with sometimes 5, 6, 7 offers. It's an opportunity, a fix-up property, a killer lot. You know what I'm talking about. You know the opportunity properties of your marketplace. Then there's exclusivity, truly one of a kind, right? Truly one of a kind. Big shout out to Gary Gold and Mauricio, who sold the Playboy Mansion, right? Exclusivity, one of a kind property last year. So you know the exclusivity properties in your marketplace. It could be how old they are. This property was, built in 1905 and it's a special Hooby-Doo house, right? Like, the designer, the builder, the architect. There is that exclusivity. But what happens if it's not that exclusive, that there's 5 of those architects' homes? What happens? It drops down, it becomes less compelling. We also know that turnkey properties are compelling, especially if there's no competition. But what if there's 5 homes for sale, same builder, same community, all priced exactly the same? You've seen this before in your marketplace. Something has to give to make one of them more compelling to get all the offers. I mean, if they're exactly the same in turnkey, you know what happens. Price trumps everything. So, opportunity, exclusivity, turnkey, or price. Notice where price is. This would be the last one on my list too. I would talk about opportunity properties in your market. Talk case studies, give examples. I'd talk about exclusivity, and I'd find 1 or 2 examples of exclusivity where the property was so ridiculously unique or special that of course it sold, but I'd also have the data on it because sometimes we know these properties sell after 3 years. You with me on this? And then turnkey with no competition. And what do? Sometimes you got to get your seller out of their house and go drive them to the brand new subdivision, the projects that are being built right now, because those builders are spending millions of dollars to understand what's in the heart and what's in the mind that's going to create that emotion to cause that buyer to say, oh my goodness, I want this home. It's built for me. If I go back and look at your home and it's not turnkey in the mind and the hearts of the buyers today, it's less compelling. You with me on this? Right? It's the old line when they say, but I did this and this and this and this and this and I fixed all these things up. I totally appreciate that. Let me ask you a question. When you were doing those things, were you guys doing it for your own enjoyment or were you just thinking about resale? Well, we were doing it for our own enjoyment, but we knew to have some value. Yes, but here's the problem. We just looked at what the builders are building and what you're doing. Don't shoot the messenger. That's our competition. They're creating compelling product for buyers today. It's got to be turnkey. You with me on this? And ideally, turnkey, no competition, and then price. So let me give you one last thought. I did a video on this a long time ago, and I don't know if this was a Tom Ferry show or if it was just something that I did on one of my old shows, but I talked about this conversation of the average agent walks in and they do their comps and they show their marketing and they get to price and they say to the sellers, so what do you guys think? Right? And the seller, because they're reading the Wall Street Journal and Bloomberg, say, we want this, right? Even after they see the comps and they know that this is the median sales price, they still say, I want this, right? Because they have this emotional attachment and their hallucination of how great the market is. The challenge of that pricing strategy is, as an agent, you're immediately on defense because you're thinking to yourself, I showed this person the realities of the marketplace and they just didn't get it. So I say, flip it, right? And a few years ago, I started teaching what I call the 3 pricing strategy, where I sit down with the sellers and I say, all right, in this case, the relist, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we really have 3 options now. And remember, if it's not compelling, it's not selling. We've already tried the above asking price. We've already tried the above fair market value. And what the data and the buyers and the brokers in the marketplace have told us is at that price, the home is not compelling. So we've tried that price. Our second option is we tried a more compelling price, which is we go right at fair market value, exactly what the comps show. And when we do that, we're gonna make your property more compelling. Do you wanna know what it takes to make it even more compelling? Do you wanna know what it takes to create a bidding war, to create so much energy in the marketplace around your property? We go below fair market value. We go below fair market value, just below fair market value, and we announce it to every broker. We announce it to every agent, and guess what happens? And you give them the case studies, you give them the examples of what happens when that beautiful house, right, goes below fair market value. All of a sudden, whoosh, everybody attacks. So we have to decide tonight, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. We listed the property last time at a non-compelling price. We now have the choice to list it at a compelling price, fair market value, or we can make it extremely compelling and list it below fair market value, just enough to create a feeding frenzy in the market. Which is better for you? You with me on this? Now, I'm challenging you. If you've got a listing today that's not selling, execute on this plan. Give me some comments below. Send me a message here or on tomferry.com on my blog there, or Facebook, Instagram, DM me on Twitter. Let me know. I have challenged a bunch of my personal clients to go back and amend the price, repackage and reposition all of their listings that are currently not selling using this strategy. And I know it's gonna create a monster May, June, July, August, because it always does. Because if it's not compelling, it's not selling. Give me your comments below and send me a message and let me know how it goes. Remember always, your strategy matters, and now more than ever, your ability to be influential absolutely rules. Thanks so much. Hey, thanks so much for watching. We have a number of events coming up, and we'd love to have you there. Visit tomferry.com/events and reserve your spot today.